Network. Now, today we are back and we are live yet again. Thank you for joining us, first of all, on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, whatever you're watching us on. Welcome. Now, as usual, I have James here with me today, and we are going to be talking about the Red Wings first. Brad will not be joining us today, unfortunately, so we will not have too much to talk about for the Tigers. So we're just going to go right into the Red Wings. I know the Steve Yzerman press conference just happened pretty recently, and it was not that great. But I will let I will let James elaborate on how not great it was.
I'll let you do that if you want. That was such a clusterfuck, um, needle in a haystack trying to find a bit of good news. Unless you are, I'll be slightly more polite and say an Yzerman slappy because it seemed the main takeaway before I get into quotes and start breaking down some stuff. He's not going anywhere. I know we said on this podcast several times, although Brad and I know you weren't so much on it, but Brad and I wanted him fired. You were half and half, which is fine. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But we've all agreed that we don't think it's actually going to happen. We were just saying what we want to have happen. This confirms not only is he back for next year, there was zero, um, I'll say, discussion in terms of where he is in his standing. A reporter asked him, and I'll get to the more details in a minute, but the reporter asked him about does he feel he's in the hot seat? And basically, he says he's talked to the people above him. He does not feel like he's in the hot seat at all. They are going to give him time to rebuild this thing in his image the right way. And yeah, like his seat looks ice cold. So if you're an Yzerman fan, I'll just say that instead. Congratulations, you have your guy. And if you're an Yzerman, I don't even want to say hater, but hater of the GM Yzerman, um, tough luck, suck it up. You're in for a long haul. Um, but with that, I will get to my actual notes and my thoughts on those quotes, because, like I said, depending on how you want to look at this thing, yeah, even the biggest diehard fan, I feel like yeah, you at least have to see what others are talking about. Um, the press conference itself was nothing short of a stand-up comedy act. Um, he deflected blame off himself every chance he could. He put it on the past coaching staff, which he hired and gave their authority. He threw Dylan Larkin under the bus for not doing enough as captain, who Steve Yzerman handpicked and chose as the captain of the Red Wings. And he said the former coaching staff and essentially, quote, the highest paid players, Larkin's the highest paid on the team, need to step up and do what they're paid to. And I'm like, so the captain you picked failed, the coaching staff you selected failed, and you're just not taking any of the responsibility. And not only is that just overall bullshit, that's just cowardly. Um, like Steve Yzerman is or should be a tough person. He played when hockey was much tougher than it was now. I know he wasn't the toughest player. He had guys like Draper and Derek McCarty to kind of do that for him, but he at least knows what it's about, what this league's about. He won Stanley Cups as a player. He won Stanley Cups in Tampa as a GM, and yet he comes here and he is just clueless. His coaches don't work. His captain doesn't work. His free agent signings aren't good unless they are one of eight um, or first ballot Hall of Fame free agents who already were established and good. I'm not shocked, Patrick Kane worked out, and he only came here because of DeBrincat. And I don't even want to give Steve Yzerman himself credit for that trade because DeBrincat is from Michigan and wanted to play for Detroit. So he told the Ottawa Senators, I'm not going to sign an extension with you. I'm only going to play in Detroit, so you can either trade me there or I'll play out the last year of my deal and sign there as a free agent. So Steve Yzerman didn't even have to do shit to get DeBrincat, and Kane came because of DeBrincat and their time in Chicago. So the two best, or the best trade and the best free agent that he has acquired since his time here were gifted to him. I will say, and I've always said, he does draft well. We do have several players in the minors that I myself am looking forward to seeing and what they can do at this level when they come up. But other than drafting, he hasn't done a fucking thing. He just hasn't. His trades are terrible. I know I've seen at least 4 or 5, and I find it funny, Yzerman fans that I commonly argue with on X say, like, you have to let the Jake Wallman trade go. It was a bad trade, move on. And I'm like, why are you just sweeping under the rug one of Yzerman's worst moves? How convenient for you. Isn't that nice? Do you want to take away one of his biggest mistakes and then just hide it and pretend like it didn't happen? Of course, you say that. If you're not familiar, I'll touch on it quickly because I have talked about it in detail in the past. We traded Jake Wallman, who in my opinion would be defenseman number 3 on this team this year. I personally would like to keep him, but we traded him away and even gave a second-round pick attached to Jake Wallman's contract so someone would take him. And then that was last year. This year at the deadline, he got traded away to a playoff contender for a first-round pick. So if we kept him, we would have a top 3 defenseman on our team currently who would help us win games. If we wanted to trade him and Steve Yzerman had his head out of his ass, he could have got a first-round pick for him like this other team did. And then Steve Yzerman would have kept his second-round pick and added an additional first, which last time I checked, rebuilding teams like having extra draft capital. So now we have less draft capital, less good players, and we're not supposed to talk about that for some reason. So that's the Jake Wallman situation. Going back to specifically the press conference, he mentioned that and maybe it's common knowledge, but it was news to me, that Dan Cleary, a former Red Wing player, is the U.S. scout for his draft strategy, and Nicholas Cromwell, another former Red Wing player, is the European scout. So I knew he had Chris Draper and some Larry Murphy and some other guys that he played with in the front office, but I did not know about those two. So on one hand, I think that's neat. They might be doing a good job because, like I said, drafting is the one thing I will give Yzerman credit for. But that was mentioned in the press conference. One quote from Yzerman that I found irritating, but at the same time, he's at least on brand, is he says that he came in here wanting to build through the draft, develop, and that they will continue that strategy. And I'm like, okay, well, to be fair, that's what he said in his opening press conference, so at least he's on brand. But at the same time, it's been 6 years of that strategy, and it's got us nothing. Like Mo Sider and Lucas Raymond are great, don't get me wrong, but congratulations, you found. I'll add Casper to that list. He came on really nice in the second half of that season. So that's 3 draft picks that are making contributions at the major league level in 6 years. I'm not a fan of that quickness. Let me just say that. Because, like I said, we do have some exciting prospects in the minors, but that's good for the minors. I don't really care about, Griffin's hockey. No offense, any Grand Rapids Griffin fans, or when they were staying over there in like the Swedish leagues. I know obviously that's important to the prospects, but I am a Red Wings fan. I care what this team does, not what those teams do. If you cannot develop in 2 or 3 years, and yes, sometimes it takes more, but Raymond was on the wings at 20. Sider was on the wings at 20, 21 maybe. We have 24 and 23-year-old prospects that still haven't seen the NHL. So, I mean, we can wait for them to be like Hendon Hooker and finally get some experience at 26, 27, but I don't know how much good that's going to do you at this point. I'll digress on that part. He went on to say, quote, "Not every first-round pick happens to play in their first year. It's important to have patience with them," unquote. Well, Stevie, I think 6 years is pretty fucking patient. I mean, I'm not known as the most patient person, but I believe 6 years is a decent amount of time to see things start coming together. And besides the three people that you drafted that I named and the one trade and one free agent that you got gifted, congratulations on having five good players in 6 years. And one of those players, Patrick Kane, is about to be 36. So, yeah, by the time these other guys come up, you're guaranteed to lose one. Luckily, Kane's still playing at a very high level. His shot has regressed some, but he is easily the best passer on the team, and he offers very good leadership and a veteran to lean on for the young guys. Unfortunately, the young guys aren't here, so I guess they can't really do that at that point. And I don't know if they have his number or whatever, but that's going to open up a wormhole that I'm just talking out of my backside. Um, as I mentioned, Nate Danielson was drafted a couple of years ago, and we still haven't seen him. So I'm just like, we're not talking not every first round pick plays in the first year. Okay, no problem. But it's been two or three. Where the hell is he? Like, I know you just brought over the Swedish guys. That's cool. Kasa's been playing goaltender and had his ups and downs. We have Augustine, who's going back to Michigan State, one of our top goalie prospects. Depending on who you ask, our top goalie prospect. And he just committed to another year to play college hockey. So some people will say that's a good thing because he's going to be an everyday player at MSU. And if he came up here, he would play like every other or every third game. So he will get more experience this way. But we don't benefit from his upside. Another Steve Yzerman quote, thought we could compete for a playoff spot, and ultimately we did compete for a playoff spot. We did not make the playoffs, which is a disappointment for us all, unquote. I wouldn't say it's a disappointment. I would just say it's unacceptable. Like, you really thought to sit here after year 6 of never making the playoffs and being like, well, I know it sucks we didn't make it, but we were at least fighting for a spot. That's cool, right? Like, if this was like the, what, 2008, 2009 Lions, maybe. Back when we used to win like 4 games a year. But yeah, that's just not good enough. I'll get on to the next one. Quote, I sit here today and feel very comfortable, happy, or liked it, but I'm very comfortable we did not make a trade that cost us a first round pick or top end prospect, unquote. I understand somewhat what he is saying by he didn't lose a first round pick or a top end prospect so he can keep building with these younger players. But the audacity, in my opinion, to say that you are comfortable with where we are at is alarming to me. He did mention, and this is not a quote, but he did mention that he is willing to trade a first or a top prospect if something in return is big enough to sell those parts, which I find interesting because we had that opportunity to get Renton, a top 15 to 10 player in the whole league at the trade deadline, and we did not. So, I mean, I will say he is top 15, top 10. He's not Connor McDavid or someone like that, but you had your chance. Normally top 15 guys don't even go on the market. So I guess maybe the asking price was too high. Obviously, I don't know what the phone calls were about. I don't know if he picked up the phone. And in my opinion, I'm going to get to the most damning part of his press conference, in my opinion. He mentions, quote, Montreal and St. Louis, who at the deadline were outside of the playoff spot, made no trades at all and both made the playoffs led by their best players, unquote. So to me, and I feel like a bunch of people, because it was a topic on X the day it happened, he's bragging about not making a move, even though Larkin said at the end of the season he really wishes Yzerman made a move and it hit the locker room kind of hard and hurt the team morale. And Yzerman just says, hey, these other teams were able to not make a trade and still make it because they leaned on their best players and I guess they just carried them. AKA, Larkin, you're not doing enough. And on one hand, I somewhat get that because Larkin was fading as the year went on. he kind of wasn't the same player after the Four Nations tournament. I don't know if he was playing hurt or if he was just out of gas because he didn't get that All-Star break. So Yzerman, or I'm sorry, so Larkin could have stepped up a little more. I will give him that. However, he is still one of the best players on this team, and I don't think I've ever heard a GM call their captain out like that publicly in any sport. I don't think I've seen that. I've seen coaches call out players and just say the players need to play better and blah blah blah. But this is pretty targeted, in my opinion, at Larkin. Um, the very next quote he went on to say is, quote, "So I guess it's my responsibility, pause. I know it's my responsibility. I'm the general manager of a team. I'm the person who hires the coaches. I'm the person who puts the scouting staff in place. Ultimately, I agree to the contracts with agents, these players and whatnot. I'm counting on my staff, on Todd, the head coach, and his staff. I'm counting on pro and amateur scouting staff. I'm counting on all of our players, particularly our best players, everyone to do their job and everyone to hold themselves and hold each other accountable to a high standard. Ultimately, I'm having to do that with myself, which I believe I do. And we eventually will get to where we want to go, hopefully sooner than later." The fuck you mean you believe you do hold yourself to a high standard? You haven't done shit, as I just talked about, for 16 minutes, and I have a lot more to go, but I'm going to try to wrap this up because it's uh try to keep the show shorter without Brad. Let people get on with their day. But I'm like, what do you mean you've held yourself accountable, or you held yourself to a high standard? You haven't even met a standard. We've like, and I know some people. I've been told by multiple people on X, stop living in the past. But I'm like, we made the playoffs for 25 years in a row, and now we haven't made it in 9 years. Only six Steve was here for, so he gets a pass on that. But like, we've been patient, and I realize that some of that patience was with the past regime, but we've been patient. And yes, hockey is a different sport, but the Pistons turned it around the first year with a new coach and a new GM. The Lions turned it around in 3 years on a 53-man roster. Like, this could happen, and this should have happened by now. Um, and the fact that he said he guesses it's his responsibility, I'm like, yeah, okay. Um, he says, quote, "I am very understanding of the demand and the want for success here because the fan base expects it, and we're very fortunate as an organization to have a passionate and demanding fan base." End quote. You're welcome, Steve. I have standards for this team. This is supposed to be hockey town. And I get it. Like, hell, 3 years ago, all four teams in this town are rebuilding. Now 3 are in the playoffs. Yours is the only one not. It's not like everyone else is taking this long. And once again, I get it's a different sport. I know someone's going to come at me and be like, "Oh, he thinks basketball, which is only 12 players and whatever, man." Like, it's taking too fucking long. Um, and then someone asked him if his comment was directly aimed at Larkin. He said, "No, it's not," although it sure as fuck feels that way. He says he addressed Larkin in private. He will not elaborate on what they talked about, but if Larkin wants to, he's more than welcome to. So to me, I don't know if that is a veiled threat or a like, you can go talk to him, like, you're not worth my time. I don't know. He came off as a cocky bitch. I'm not gonna lie. He came off definitely as someone who I mentioned earlier in this that is not afraid of his job. He mentioned, I don't think I have the exact quote up, but um, I'll say in layman's terms, just so I don't misquote a word or whatever. He said, as long as Illich is happy, he doesn't care what the fans think, that he's going to follow his process, and hopefully it pays off sooner or later. So as long as, I'll go out and even say, as long as daddy is happy, Papa Illich, as long as the guy writing your checkbook is good to go, you don't care. You're just having your feet up in your office and I don't know. Maybe the prospects and the minors are his scapegoat. Oh, you can't fire me. I got all these guys. They haven't come up yet. You have, and I don't know. It is just a fucking shit show. One reporter asked him if they are willing to give someone over $10 million. There came out a report during free agency last year that when they were signing Raymond and Sider, that one of the major hookups with that, or hangups, I should say, was that he wanted to make sure that Larkin, the captain, was still the highest paid on the team. So he tried to give Sider and Raymond bonuses, signing bonuses, other things to try to give them more money, but he wanted to make sure that Larkin was the highest paid on the team. And there's a lot of good talent in this league that you're not signing for Raymond's money. I've mentioned it before in a prior podcast. I would love to have Mitch Marner here. He's a free agent. Every sign points to Toronto not being able to keep him. Not that they don't want to, they just can't. But he's looking on the open market at 13 or 14 a year. So I really hope Yzerman can put put Illich's money where his mouth is. And he would instantly be the best player on the team. But I don't know if it's a Larkin thing or an Yzerman thing. But if your top player is only making 9 a year, you're not going to have a very good team unless you have the best depth in the league. But then you're starting to talk about like the going to work Pistons where um, no stars, but just no flaws either. He did mention that he does not like. I have the quote, but it's fucking 4 lines long. And I'm trying to wrap this up. He mentions that they rely too heavily on the power play for offense. They need more depth and they need more scoring 5-on-5 from their top 6 guys, which is also on Yzerman. If your top 6 guys are not good enough, it maybe is because you're not paying the good players. Once again, Mitch Marner would be instantly the best player on this team. And once again, I don't think we'll get him because we are potentially allergic to adding talent on this team, it seems like at times. And then in terms of we need more depth on this team, I mean, okay, Stevie, go get it. You're the GM, man. What are you waiting for? Either sign it in free agency or draft it or call him up, or that's on you, man. Trade for it, whatever. Like the whole press conference, he was admitting his faults by blaming the coaches on the last regime that he hired, blaming the captain that he appointed, blaming the depth of the team that he signed. And yet he's like, I've been holding my end and I'm responsible and whatever, held myself to a high standard when the facts just don't line up with that. And then lastly, to end this rant, I'm gonna say, like it or not, Steve Yzerman is not going anywhere. For my mental sanity over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm going to blindly buy back in, or I will physically not last 3 more years watching this bullshit. So, with his unlimited time as general manager, to get this back on track, in my opinion, you either have to get in line and ride the slowest rebuild train ever, or lose your mind with every signing, pick, trade for the foreseeable future. Because, like I said, there is no changes coming. There is no even rumors. There's no talk. There's no conversation. Eyes are planned year 7, and like it or not, it's coming. So I am praying to literally any God that's willing to listen, hoping that ignorance is bliss. And I'm just going to assume that Yzerman has us, like I did the first 5 years before I started questioning him. Because if he's going to be around for another 2 or 3, and it's just going to be same old, draft, develop, and pray, if it's not the ignorance is bliss approach, you'll just be pulling your hair out, and I don't have much left anyway. So I'm just going to buy back in, and hopefully it just fixes itself, I guess. And with that, I'll send it back to you, Jace.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on there with the Red Wings this week. Obviously, Yzerman is not doing a great job. I like you said before, I was kind of 50-50 a few weeks ago when we talked about this. I am pretty fully on the Fire Yzerman train though now. I feel like watching clips of that conference, because I didn't watch it live, but watching clips of it, he just comes off as a guy who's not doing the right shit, and he knows he's not doing the right shit, but he's got to stand behind it because he's been doing the same shit for 6 years. So he's just like the way he was saying certain stuff was just kind of, he's not willing to adapt, he's not willing to change, he's not willing to learn, he's not willing to do anything differently. And like, now, have the Red Wings totally sucked ass? No, but
No.
they are not what they're supposed to be and what they have been for a long time, as you've mentioned. So that was really my main, negative takeaway from it. Is I just feel he seems like a guy who is just bought into his process, and that's all it's about. That's all it's going to be. And good luck. I mean, if it doesn't work out, like you said, if it doesn't work out, at least we've got some young guys for the next GM, and then maybe he can try to build around this. And then, with the Larkin stuff too, that just isn't a good look, man. Like, you got your GM and your best player going back and forth. It's just not great. And I mean, that goes back into the whole, Yzerman needs to go thing, because if he's your captain, if he's your best player, then why is he calling you out? Like, there should be, you guys should be on the same page, is what I'm getting at here. It's like, you guys should understand, okay, this is our plan. Dylan Larkin doesn't seem to like it, and that's where we seem to have problems, because he, like you said, he doesn't want to pay anybody more than Larkin, but Larkin doesn't seem to mind. I mean, it seems like he would rather win. You know what I mean? So that just seems like a stupid reason. But with that being said, we will move on now to the Pistons. Detroit basketball. Let's fucking go, baby. Tonight, in less than 1 hour, the Pistons are back at home at LCA after beating the Knicks in MSG 106-103. And most people, or not most people, but most times after Pistons games, we say after a great game from Cade Cunningham. This time, it's after a great game from Asar Thompson. Man, he did great defensively. He had over 20 points. Let me look at his stats, because I'm pretty sure he had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. Okay, and he was 8 for 10 from the field. That is dominance, in my opinion. He had a great game. He did really well on Brunson defensively, holding him to under 20. I believe it was 16 points that Brunson ended the game with. Yeah, 16.7 assists. So obviously, Asar Thompson is the Brunson stopper. So I feel like, thankfully, we found a way to get Brunson off of his game. I know the game that I saw in person, Brunson had a similar game in the regular season the week before the playoffs started, and then he just kind of has been lighting us up since then. So hopefully they found something to try to stop Brunson. And then, of course, Karl Anthony Towns only had 17 points, 11 rebounds. OG Anunoby 19 points, 8 rebounds. Josh Hart 15 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Obviously he was doing work. Hart did get injured toward the end of the game, though. And then Michael Bridges, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. I just feel like at this moment, okay. Oh, and then also Mitchell Robinson off the bench had 13 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Okay. This is not going to be that positive right now, and I'm just going to be honest here. I don't think the Pistons win tonight. Okay. And you guys watching this, talk your shit in the comments. Let me have it. Tell me all about how Cade's dropping 60 or whatever the fuck. But I don't think they have it tonight, personally. I think the game in MSG, they played well. They played great. They only won by 3 points, though. I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns having less than 20 points again tonight. I don't know if you heard, but not one Knicks player had 20 points the last game. Not one. OG Anunoby was the highest scorer with 19. So I'm just saying the Pistons played a great defensive game. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the Knicks. It's not like we got lucky or anything. I'm just saying I don't think that will happen again. And I'm not so sure that, in the same respect, on the flip side, on the offensive side, that Asar Thompson's going to have an 8 for 10, 22-point performance. I mean, I would love it. I just don't think it's sustainable. And that's the problem right now with this Pistons team is I love the rebrand that we went through with the back to work thing. I think that's perfect because that's what we're doing. We're going back to work, baby. This was day one at the office this year. Day one at the office. We're going back to work. You know what I'm saying? We're not gonna know everything day one. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not gonna be working our way up day one. So that's how I look at it. I just feel the Pistons did what they needed to do. They kind of showed everybody that they were legit enough, and I think just this playoff series could definitely bring some free agents to Detroit this offseason even. I know we've talked about James Harden a handful of times on the show here. I would like it, but it's just one of those things. It's got to kind of be perfect. I would prefer a 1 year deal. It'd probably have to be at least 2 though. I would rather if it's 2 a team option, but he probably won't do that. I would assume the Clippers are going to offer him a 3-4 year max again. So it's not likely that he comes here, but there are some other, pretty good players like Atari Eason from Houston that I think we could bring on over to Detroit and would actually make a pretty solid difference. So now with that being said, back to the last game though against the Knicks. Obviously Cade had a great game too, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. But we do need a little bit more from Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. I feel like they've been very lackluster this whole playoff series so far. It doesn't really seem like Malik's out here. I think he's had one pretty good game, if I'm not mistaken, where he had almost 20. But I do feel like he's just been up and down, inconsistent. I know Tim Hardaway ended one of the game with 0 points. Like they are just not stepping up like they were in the regular season, and that's kind of what the Pistons have relied on throughout the regular season and even in this playoff series. Luckily, Tobias Harris has stepped up in their absence. But like I said, like I mentioned before the series started, if we could get our bench to outscore the Knicks bench, we have a legit chance because their starters are going to outscore our starters. That's just probably what's going to happen every single game. I mean, if we just look at, let's see, Tobias Harris had 17, Asura Thompson had 22, Duran had 9, Cunningham had 24, Hardaway had 8. And then we look at the Knicks, it's 19, 15, 17, 17, 16. So I just think that kind of shows exactly what the Pistons' problem is right now is we're not getting enough, scoring help from our other guys. And like I said, Tobias Harris has picked up the slack. But if we could get Malik Beasley, I'll say this. If Malik Beasley can score over 15 while Tobias Harris scores over 15 and Tim Hardaway Jr. has at least 10, we will win tonight. We will win. I think that obviously Cade's going to have his 20 to 25, but with all those guys doing what they need to do, we could win. I just don't think it's going to happen based on what they've showed me throughout the playoffs so far. Obviously Isaiah Stewart is out, which is a huge loss for the Pistons yet again. But we've been winning without him. So hopefully we can win this game, go back to MSG, and he will be healthy for game 7. I can't imagine the atmosphere in the Pistons Knicks game 7 at MSG. That would be insane. I think it would be way more insane if it was at LCA, but I still do think that atmosphere is going to be really cool, and I would love to see it. Not even simply for the fact to see it and have the Pistons team kind of having to go through a game 7 at MSG with how rowdy that Knicks fan base can get. So with that being said, the real question is now, even if the Pistons can win this game, can they pull it off? Can they win the whole series? That's a question I'm not sure on. I don't as we've said before, I'm not that confident. If we win tonight, though, I'd be a lot more confident that we could go back and beat the Knicks at home. And I just feel like what happens after that, though, because I don't think we're winning the next round. So it's like, great, we won a playoff series, but we're not a championship team, guys, and I think we need to accept that and understand that. I mean, this Pistons team reminds me so much of the Lions when they went 9-8. It was a great flip. Jared Goff had an insane season. He went 9 games with no interceptions at the end of the year.
Something like that.
We were barely out of the playoffs by 1 game because we lost that week 3 or week 2 game to Seattle, and that was the tiebreaker. So that's kind of how I think about this Pistons team. And what did we see that Lions team do? They had a great draft. They drafted a couple studs again. They signed a couple guys in free agency. They made the trade for, or no, that was Carlton Davis was the year after. So they didn't make the trade, but they signed some good free agents. They added in the draft, and they added the pieces to get over that hump. And then the next year they did it again, and then they went from 13 wins to 15 wins, or 12 wins to 15 wins. So I just think that's kind of where the Pistons are at. The Pistons are 2 years behind the Lions in terms of their rebuild, but it's very reminiscent where they just had that shit season where they were 14 wins and now they made the playoffs with did they have over 40 wins? I can't remember off the top of my head if they had.
Pistons?
Yeah, if they had over 40.
44.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, 44 wins on the season, and I mean that's what 30 win swing. I mean, you can't really ask for too much more than that. So my whole point with all that being said is, as Pistons fans, we should be already happy. We should already be happy. We want a playoff game. Then we want a second one. It sucks that both of them were not in front of our home crowd. It does that is a negative on it, but
This one will be.
yeah. See, there we go. That's what we need. So like, at the end of the day, we should all be happy regardless of what happens, pretty much is what I'm getting at. And I feel that this off season is going to be a huge one for the Pistons. Personally, I don't know if I would want to bring Malik Beasley back. I love him. He's a great player, but his inconsistencies in the playoffs and really throughout the regular season. I mean, he had a lot of great games, but he did kind of disappear sometimes, and it depends on the money. I mean, if we're talking 18 mil a year for 3, sure, I'd bring him back. But if we're talking $30 million a year, I'm good, man. I would rather just give that money to like a Fred Van Vliet or something, to be honest with you. Nah, I probably wouldn't give him that much, but something like that where I would be okay with Fred Van Vliet adding on the team for like 18 mil, something 15 mil, something like that. But that's only if we can't get the big fish. But that's another conversation for further down the road. With that being said, do you have anything to add for the Pistons?
Not necessarily. The only thing I was going to really touch on was Beasley's kind of disappearing in the playoffs, but you covered that rather nice. I brought up the box scores here, and I can't remember which game it was. Live game 3. Yeah, game 3 we lost by 2. Beasley was 2 for 10 from 3. So even if he was just 3 from 10, which is still bad, 30% is not the greatest. We win. And then in game 1, he did have 20 points. Granted, that was the game we lost by 13 or whatever. In game 2, Beasley. 1 for 8 from 3. So like I know he was like the 3-point king in the regular season, and Ant had to play extra minutes in a blowout just to take the 3-point crown from him. But he's not been here when it matters most. But that being said, I'll take him out easily for another 1 year, 6 mil like he currently has. If he's willing to do that, I might even give him a raise to 10. But like you were saying with like 18, I'm like, no, I just say thank you for your time and move on with that. But I do think we win tonight. I don't know if it's blind faith or just gut feeling, but I just got that gut feeling. But um, I, I will say, because tonight is in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, I feel like our playoffs will end with Game 7 then, because I don't think, and I'm not trying to open a can of worms, but I don't think with the way that this series has been officiated, the league would allow the Pistons to win a Game 7 in New York. Um, and I know people call me the tinfoil hat guy and whatnot, but that's what I believe. And I'll end my mini rant with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go as far as you would in the refs thing. Like, I personally do think they fucked us the last game, but I also agree that, we shouldn't have gave it to the refs, kind of like how Brad said last time. I think that's one of those things where it's like, as a coach, you do have to go, yeah, they fucked us, but we also didn't get the job done. So it's like, we can't really be too upset. But with that being said, good luck to the Pistons tonight. We'll be watching pretty shortly. We're only 40 minutes away now from tip off, so it's going to get there pretty quick. For all of you that are watching, don't worry, we will be off of here with plenty time to spare, so you will have plenty of time to make that food, get yourself ready, put on that Cade Cunningham jersey. I don't have one. I need to get one. Haven't decided
Even
what.
I have one.
See, and that's the thing. Okay, look, man. I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not a jersey guy. I never have been.
Neither am I.
Like, I love jerseys, but they're too expensive. I'm not fucking paying $120 for a football jersey. I'm sorry. I'm just not doing it. The two jerseys that I have that you guys have seen on the wall behind me, I got those off of Facebook Marketplace. They're 100% real, but it was like around Christmas time. One guy didn't fit him. The other guy, I don't remember what the fuck he got rid of it for, but I got a Panay Sewell on the field jersey for $50 and a Jahmyr Gibbs on the field for 60. I was like, yeah, that's not too bad. I'll splurge and grab those. And like, I've never owned a Pistons jersey in my life outside of this Blake Griffin jersey that I bought 6 months ago to hang in my man cave. Genuinely, like, I've owned Russell Westbrook jerseys a lot throughout my life because he's always been my favorite player. But other than that, I just haven't really. I mean, you guys are going to hate me for this because this is a Michigan sports podcast, but OKC has always been my number one team. Like, Pistons are always in my heart and soul because it's Detroit, but OKC is my team. I have a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I have a Paul George. I have a Russell Westbrook. I have a fucking random Giannis jersey that it was given to me. So, like, all that to say, if I can find a Cade Cunningham jersey on Facebook Marketplace, which I have been looking, I'll buy it. But I think we both know that ain't gonna fucking happen right now. So I went to the Pistons game a couple weeks ago when they played the Knicks, the last game they played them before the playoffs. And I was like, for like a week, dude, I was like, Cade Cunningham jersey, Cade Cunningham jersey. Not a damn thing. Nothing. It was like fucking a Grant Hill jersey that was $80. And I'm like, yeah, fuck out of here with that. I'm like, you're tripping, brother. I don't know what the fuck. I got a frosted mini wheats Grant Hill box. I'd trade you. Like, but yeah. So anyway, good luck to the Pistons tonight. I really hope we pull it out, but who knows what's going to happen. With that being said, we will move on now to the Lions, which is our final talking point today. A little bit shorter pod. We don't have too much to cover on the Lions. We already talked about the draft in depth last week, which I will be posting in a clip on our X and YouTube account just so you guys can watch that because I felt like we did a really good job going in depth with all these players. So if you're somebody that wants to know more about the guys that we drafted, stay on the lookout for that. And while we're here, shout out to Fanatics, our sponsor. As always, appreciate you guys for helping us out, make this thing go. So you guys can go ahead and hop in the description, click that Fanatics link, and it will be good for a whole week. You don't have to buy anything right then. Just click that link, and then the next time you go onto Fanatics and buy something, we will get a small kickback, which will be you supporting us without having to actually pay us anything, which, is kind of works out for everybody. And they always have codes going on the website too. So keep an eye out. They had a code pretty recently. I think it was 25% off. For instance, I got this shirt ready to roll, NFC North champions. I got it for $9, dude. $9. I got 4 different Lions jerseys, or not jerseys, I wish jerseys, shirts that are very similar to this, but they were all $9. Everything was 75% off. So just something to think about. Keep your eye out for those, those good deals. I would go into their email list because it's definitely worth it. I mean, that's how I got this. I wouldn't have known at all, but I got that email and I said, shit, 70% off. Let me check. And I got 4 Nike Lions shirts for $40. You can't beat it. I mean, genuinely, you just can't beat it. So yeah, like I said, hit that description, click that link, and it'll be good for 7 days. We appreciate you guys for supporting us, and we appreciate you for watching as always. But with that being said, Brad Holmes made some comments recently that have kind of went around Twitter a little bit. The main one that I have seen or heard that he did, I think it was on 97.1, the interview he did with them, where he basically said, for lack of the exact quote, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he basically said, edge is not as big of a need as you guys think it is to me. Edge wasn't something that we necessarily prioritized the way that the fans and the media want us to. Which, I get it. I do somewhat. But I do think, and I'm going to get fucking staked for fucking saying this right now, but Brad Holmes' thought process on this is confusing, in my opinion, because he's saying that Lions fans want another Aiden Hutchinson across from Aiden Hutchinson, and that's just not realistic. He's right. Yeah, I don't think it's fucking realistic. I think everybody could have agreed that Myles Garrett was, well, let's be real. Everyone that has fucking, like, common sense, and can understand contracts and how that works, they were like, it would be great, but it's probably not going to happen. I mean, the fucking picks we'd have to give up, like the money we'd have to pay him, it's like, we'd love it if it happened. I mean, we'd all rejoice, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, we all kind of could agree upon that. Probably not going to happen, so let's not get our fucking hopes up. You know what I mean? So that makes sense. I get what he's saying there, but that's not even what we're asking for anymore, bro. We're asking you to fucking re-sign Za'Darius Smith. Like, come on. And then he goes, well, we traded for an edge last year with a fifth round pick. So clearly I prioritize, the position. And it's like, yes, but why wouldn't you want to pair that guy you traded for with the guy who is elite that's on your team already? I don't get it. Like, if you look at our fucking cap space, we have like $42 million in cap space right now. What? But I thought we didn't have any money. I'm just like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's just like, well, we're going to keep it for rollover or whatever, because that is a thing. There is rollover. However, I don't think taking $8 million of that out to give to Za'Darius Smith would be crazy, right? I mean, think about it. He was only set to make like 11 this upcoming season, 11.5 maybe. We cut him to get rid of that. Okay, he might come back for $3 million less. That's not that much difference. You know what I mean? And right now he's still a free agent. So it seems clear he wants to be back, but it seems clear we're not making him a priority. And I don't know if you saw the Kirby contract, but it's an amazing fucking contract. Like, it is structured beautifully. A lot of options, very low cap hits. I think his cap hit next season is like under $4 million. So they killed it with that. But I'm confused now where the money's going. Like, I thought it was going to go to Kirby. I thought he was going to have a fucking $20 million cap hit right away. No, that's not the case. So what are we planning on doing with this money? Maybe it's just, negotiations with Smith's agent. I don't know. I don't know the inner workings, but that kind of just confuses me when he's saying you're asking for an Aiden Hutchinson across from Aiden Hutchinson, but all we're asking for is Za'Darius Smith, which he has said he's in contact with. But it seems they're not prioritizing bringing him back. If we could get Za'Darius Smith for $10 million, I would cut Glasgow and make that happen. I'm sorry, I like Glasgow. He's a solid player, but we just made him expendable with our draft. Like, literally, we said, Glasgow, targets on your back, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guarantee you with that Ratledge pick, he said, damn, okay, I'll play left guard again, I guess. And then we picked, Frazier. Frazier. Then we picked Miles Frazier, and he was probably like, damn, I am going to have to work my ass off in camp to keep my job. If money's that big of a deal, we're paying Graham Glasgow $8.5 million. I would be more than happy to literally just give Za'Darius Smith an extra 1.5 on top of that. Because he's more important of a position, okay, and I love O-line, but edge rusher is more important than guard, especially when you already have a lot of very good talent around that position. It makes their job a little bit easier, and obviously one-on-ones aren't going to be any easier because you have a good player next to you. That's not the point, but the point is that it takes some things off of him. So now that we drafted these guys, I just feel it's almost obvious, and maybe that's the wait. Maybe we're waiting until June 1st to cut him, because the 8.5 mil, the full thing comes off after June 1st, I'm pretty sure. So that could make some sense, but it also does feel like Brad Holmes' comments are kind of, I've said it before on the show and I'll say it again. It does feel like he is kind of pissed off and over it, and he's tired of people trying to tell him how to do his job, and he is just done. Like, he's just like, I don't care what the fuck you got to say, but he does care because he gets worked up and defensive about it. But that to me almost feels like he's going to say, I'm just not going to sign anybody now, and we're going to win the Super Bowl because I know what I'm talking about. And it's like, if that's the case, I don't love that. I don't know his intentions, but it seems like it's kind of going that way where he's just like, look, man, I'm going to do things my way, and that's just how it goes. And a lot of you guys aren't going to like this, but it reminds me of the Steve Yzerman press conference a
I
little
was
bit.
waiting to chime in on that.
Yeah. It reminds me of that just a little bit because he's like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't blah blah blah. And it's like, bro, okay, cool. But are you like I said this in a tweet. I said I would love to be the one asking Brad Holmes these questions because I would straight up just be like, so you're telling me that you feel 100% confident with Marcus Davenport as your starting edge next year? And then he would say, yes. And then I'd go, why? And then he'd go, well, he's a good player. He's had a lot of health issues, but we don't believe injury prone is a thing unless it's, the same injury, blah, blah, blah. You know the spiel, you know how that goes. And then I'd go, okay, so we just had historical amount of injuries. Are you not like scared of injuries? Because I am personally as a fan. I'm a little worried sitting here watching that Aiden Hutchinson's going to break his fucking back next year or some crazy shit's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like,
Knock on wood.
Yeah, fucking shit. Now I got my dogs barking, thinking
My bad.
No, but like, anyway, fucking. The point is here. The point is that I just feel that Brad Holmes is getting to that point of not that he's to it yet, but he's getting to that point of there's gonna be. It's like a roller coaster, right? That's how I think. He's going up, and I think he's here right now at the spot where a lot of people plateau, right? Where a lot of good GMs don't become great. They just stay good, okay? I think, and I've said this since the season, Brad Holmes' offseason this year was going to show me whether he was a great GM or not. Call me crazy, but it hasn't. I mean, it feels like he's a good GM, but he's still got some more to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, and look, he's killed it on his draft, but let's be real, okay? Brad Holmes is not the one going to these games and scouting these kids every time. Brad Holmes is not the one writing these scouting reports for every single player. You know what Brad Holmes is doing? He's doing scouting. I'm not saying he's not, but he's getting a folder set on his desk from his scout saying, I really like this player. I think you should check him out. That's how it works. I mean, I don't know if people didn't know that or not, but a GM of a team is not sitting there watching fucking film on a fucking D3 wide receiver. He's just not doing that. Period. He's not, unless that scout says, "I really think you should look at this guy." Now he's looking at the big prospects, like the Michigan, the Alabamas, throughout the year and things, but he's not the guy that's putting in all the fucking like deep in the trenches work year round. He's not, that's what the scouts do, man. So I think we should maybe take a step back and go, yes, Brad Holmes has done a great job at drafting guys, but our scouting department's really fucking killed it, man. They have been awesome in terms of scouting the guys and finding the right guys that we want. And Brad Holmes has done a great job at picking the right guys that fit this team and fit what we need. But I do think people are a little quick to anoint Brad Holmes. I was a little quick too, I think, because I said it to somebody last year. I was like, my dream job is to be the Lions GM, right? And I was like, since a kid, I'd be like, I'm going to be the first one to win us a Super Bowl. I stopped saying that because I genuinely believe Brad Holmes will win us a Super Bowl. I'm not as confident now as I used to be. And here's why. Here's why. If his thought process truly is that he doesn't think we need another edge, there's something flawed there, I believe, because it is a need, period. And I think everyone would agree outside of him, apparently. And that's where I get confused because, and listen, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's dumb or it's a bad decision. I'm just saying we will have to wait and see what transpires because, I mean, the same thing with the draft. I've said that many times. I didn't love the draft, the first round. And then we saw the next couple picks, and I said, okay, that's a little bit better. I didn't love the trade for Tesla, but solid player. Point is, I think Brad Holmes has a lot to prove this season on whether or not like this Lions team is going to be a legit dynasty or they're just going to be a pretty good team for a while. I think that's fair. You know what I mean? Like that's fair to say Brad Holmes, if he's trying to build a dynasty, we have some work to do in that to move that way. So with that being said, I will pass it to you to give your thoughts on all of this.
Um, one thing that, well, multiple things that you said that were interesting, but it all kind of pooled into the same thought process is how similar style-wise Yzerman has been to Brad Holmes. They both want to build through the draft, develop, extend, etc. However, where they differ vastly is the results. And I know we haven't won the Super Bowl, and that's obviously a goal, but the bar for the Lions prior to Brad Holmes was, can we just make the playoffs? It would be cool if we won, but if we can just make it, that would be cool. And that's kind of where I am with the Wings. I think if the Wings made the playoffs, I don't think you win in the first round, but it would be nice just to be there, kind of like the Pistons. I do think we have a chance. I don't think it's high, but I do think we have a chance to go to the second round. But if you told me this time last year that the Pistons make the first round of the playoffs, I think I'd debate between calling you crazy and just slapping you for being that ignorant. So it's a great thing that they did for the Pistons. And Brad Holmes, although he hasn't won a Super Bowl, he's won back-to-back division titles, which have not happened in my lifetime prior to Brad Holmes. I'm 33. I went 31 years on this planet with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers having the NFC Central title more recently than the Lions. Thank God we don't have to say that anymore. He's won 2 playoff games, and I know some people as big whoop, 2 playoff games. Other franchises like win that too, you know. But I'm like, for us, like that was a huge milestone, a huge monkey off our back, a huge chip off our shoulder. Um, so when Brad Holmes is saying similar things to Steve Yzerman, I just almost blindly trust Brad Holmes because he's had success. You have at least made the playoffs. You brought us to the best franchise record in Lions history this past season, the most recent season, with more injuries than any other team in the league. So not only the free agents like Reed or the draft class, which we've gone in detail about, but also we're adding to this team simply by getting healthy. Like Hutch should be a full go from moment one in spring training or in spring training. This is in baseball in training camp. I doubt he plays in the preseason, but week one in the regular season and all that. So when Brad says it, I believe it. But with Yzerman, and I don't want to jump all the way back to that per se, but with Yzerman, when he says it, he hasn't been there and done that in Detroit. He has with Tampa, but I want to see it in Detroit. So in terms of the Lions, I do feel like Brad is a great GM, not just a good GM, but that is always potentially open to change. I do think defensive end is a need, much like you. I thought it was our second biggest need. I did have guard as our biggest need, and he addressed the hell out of that. So good on him for that one. But defensive end was my second biggest need, and besides a fifth, sixth round pick, which don't get me wrong, he is a phenomenal story. Let's keep it real, and who knows what the hell he's going to be as a player at the next level. So let's still wait and see on that. I do like Davenport for the contract we signed him because he came back super cheap. but he is always hurt. I almost want to say Ziggy Ansah 2.0, but Ansah was hurt even less than Davenport. So, which that's a scary thing in itself. Pascal's still developing, but he might be one of um, it's it's almost nice to say, but one of Brett Holmes' bigger misses being a second round pick because he's still at least an average player. Like there's nothing wrong with him, but he's just not playing up to that second round tier that a lot of people have in their heads, how they think a second round pick should play. But the fact that he's not a complete bust like some other second round picks in the past, not Brad Holmes, like Titus Young, Ryan Broyles. Don't ask where I pulled that name out of my ass. It just came to me. Um, so I'm like, we've had far worse misses than Pascal in the past. So I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but I'm not going to be like, oh boy, man, what do you mean we need a DM? We have Pascal, we're good. Like, no, it's in between there. So we still even after the draft now need help at the end. But I do take comfort in knowing that other than McNeil because he's hurt, um, we will be having all of our starting D linemen back at some point. Hopefully, they all can play together. We addressed big needs. I expect big jumps from players that were already on the team last year. Like I expect a big jump from Rakestraw. I expect a big jump from Terry and Arnold. So some guys that we counted on a little bit last year need to take that next step up. And as long as they do, I feel good about this team. I will say though, if we come out this season and only bring our C plus or B performance, we're going to be in trouble because I think at least three teams from the NFC North are going to make the playoffs. So as long as we come in, handle business, I'm not worried about the other teams because they're good teams. We're a good team too. So let's see who's better. We'll see on the field. But if we come out and we're not prepared, which I think Dan will have us prepared, I don't think losing the coordinators is as big of a story as some others have made it. It's noteworthy, of course, but I've seen some people say like our offense might even be like bottom 10 because it was all Ben Johnson. No, like don't get me wrong, he was a good coordinator and all that, but Goff is still Goff. Gibbs is still Gibbs. It's not like he forgets how to juke. Like it's not like our old linemen forget how to block. We still have Hank Fairley. So I'm just predicting more good things on the horizon for the Lions. And like I said, in terms of comparison to Yzerman, I don't know what the hell's on the horizon for them. So at least when Brad says it, I believe it. I'll at least go with that for now.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I will say, at least to Steve Yzerman's credit, football and hockey are completely different sports in terms of drafting and developing. So, like, maybe it's just a better strategy in football because you do want younger guys because they're going to play right away, and it makes more sense in football, I think. So, with that being said, though, I do want to be clear here, okay? Because I could see how this might have got misconstrued. I believe Brad Holmes is a top 5, if not top 3 GM in the league, right? But I think to be number one, which I think he could be, we gotta be a dynasty, bro. Like I'm talking like win at least one in the next 2 years and go to at least 3 in the next 5. Like Howie Roseman is the number 1 GM in the league right now. Because he has drafted well, he's signed well, he's traded well, and he's won a fucking Super Bowl. Okay? Let's just be real. Like, I know Brad Holmes didn't start with the greatest fucking bag, but he's done a great job to get it better. But like I'm saying, right now, it's like, this is where you show if you're an elite GM. I think that's probably what I should have said, an elite or a great one, because it's like he's great right now because he's gotten us to here and we're doing this. He's hired our head coach and, all this. But it's like the elite GMs get you over the hump to those Super Bowls. And with how our team's built right now, if we can win 1 Super Bowl, I don't see why we can't win 3. I don't see why we can't win 5. You know what I mean? Like Jared Goff really is the only thing that I would worry about when we're talking the next 5 to 10 years, because I mean, he's just not going to be around for that long. So with that being said, I do just want to make it clear that in no way am I calling out Brad Holmes or saying he's not good at his job or whatever the case, or that I know more than he does, because I mean, he's the GM for a reason and I'm not. He's been doing this for a lot longer than I have. I mean, I'm only 24. He's probably double my age, if not in his 50s by now. So, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, granted, I do know where I sit. You know what I mean? I just want to make that clear because I know a lot of people like to fucking come at you because you disagree. But I do think the last thing I'll say about it is I do think edge is still a glaring need, and pass rush period is a glaring need on this team outside of Aiden Hutchinson and Lee McNeil. I do not see anyone on our team that scares anyone else. There is not another D lineman on our fucking team that the other team is going, got to worry about this guy on 3rd and long. There's not one. And that's where I'm worried, because it's like Aiden Hutchinson and Aleem McNeil are really great players, but they're both coming off of like season-ending injuries, and Aiden Hutchinson might never be the same again. I'm sorry, but I don't know if you guys have ever played a fucking sport before, but if you are going, if like you're Aiden Hutchinson, right, and you're going fucking full speed all the time, that's like his thing. He's a fucking motor player, you know what I mean? Like, he just goes hard as fuck constantly. He broke his leg in half. It's not like he fucking tore his ACL. His leg was like this, bro. You see what I'm saying? There's going to be some fucking hesitancy with that. I mean, whether we like it or not, he is going to be hesitant because he is a human being. And he was it's like going through a fucking car crash. He's not going to be right away week 1 fucking Aiden Hutchinson of last year. He's just not. And if he is, more power to him. He's a fucking anomaly, an enigma, and that just goes to show that he's like a Hall of Famer. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, he's not going to come back 100%, at least for the first half of the season. I would almost bet money on that. And they probably won't even play him 100% for the first half of the season, because he was playing almost 100% of the snaps last year on defense. My guess is he'll play less than 70 until probably week 6 or 7. And then you have Aleem McNeil, who might not even be back until halfway through the year. So we are relying on Levi Onwuzurike as our pass rusher right now. That's pretty much all we got. We have, oh damn it, his name's escaping me. The guy who was our depth guy, who had like, I think he had 7 sacks or something like that this last year. Shit, we just re-signed him. I don't know why his name is escaping me. I cannot think of it. Yes, Muhammad. Yes, Muhammad. He was great last year. Yeah. Will he do it again? I'm not confident in that. I mean, I'm not in the building. I don't see him working out. I don't know everything. But as an outsider, I'm not that confident in it. So that's why I think we need an edge, because there's just nobody else outside of Levi the first half of the season that I'm even like, yeah, he's a good pass rusher. If Davenport's 100% healthy, he could be a good pass rusher, but that remains to be seen. I mean, that's really all it is for me. Is as a fan of this team, I'm scared that the one time we are a favorite to win the Super Bowl, it's not going to matter because we have one glaring hole that is pretty fucking important. I mean, I think getting to the quarterback is probably the 3rd most important thing in football. So, I don't know. I do think Brad Holmes is a smart enough guy that he knows that. I just think he's fucking over people asking him about it, and he's over answering the same question. And I think that's really what this comes from, more than him saying, fuck it, we don't need it. I think it's simply just him going, can we stop talking about the same thing every single time I see you? Like, I mean, literally, bro, he got asked it, I think 5 or 6 fucking times in a row the other day as I was watching that first press conference from the first round. I think it was right after day 1. And literally they were like, edge, 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 edge. And I mean, granted, it was all different questions about edge, but it's like, dude, he's like I said, I didn't think it was a need. And it's like, you know, you got to look at it both sides too. As someone who thinks we need an edge, it's a little fucking confusing, so you're going to ask him again. So it's like, maybe if he gave up a little more information, then they would stop asking. But it's like, you know, I mean, that's just how that shit goes, though. They're reporters. They're going to pry. They're going to ask questions. So it's like, as a GM, you should probably just be used to that and just like move on. But I can see how it'd get a little irritating. But with that being said, that's really all I've got on all of this Brad Holmes comment situation. We did cover the Kirby deal a little bit earlier. Like I said, just it was a great structure. Basically, the way that they did it is it's a restructure every year, essentially, because they have all these options and bonuses built in that it's a perfect contract. I mean, you can't really ask for more. But with that being said, do you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I'm ready to go grab some food and watch the Pistons.
All right, sounds good. With that being said, we appreciate you guys for watching. As always, you can find us at MI Sports Media on Instagram and X. James is at Gullet_James. I am at JSoSweet. And again, thank you to Fanatics for sponsoring this video. Link is in the description. Check it out. And we'll see you guys on the next one.